My name is Edward Brooks. I'm 51. And I'm one of those who came back. This is not a rescue story. This is a testimony. And it needs to be told while time is still flowing and not compressed into a point. It all started with a heart attack. 3:03 a.m. Hotel in Milan. I came here for work, an architect, tired, not praying for more than 20 years. My heart slammed shut like an old cell door. The light flickered. And the silence became absolute. I was expecting a void. Or a tunnel. But I met something strange. The darkness was heavy. As if someone was standing behind it. And sure enough, someone was standing there. The light didn't appear in front of me, but behind me. I turned around and he was already at my side. Jesus Christ. Not like in the stained glass windows. Not like on icons. He was real in a way that was never real in real life. No glow. But from his gaze, everything false in you burns away. I didn't fall to my knees. I collapsed inside myself. He didn't speak in words. The voice was in your head, like a memory you haven't lived through yet. Let's go. You must see. The one you didn't know, but whose name you spoke, will soon die. And you need to understand what's behind it. We were walking through an empty space. It was neither hell nor heaven. More like the inside of time. Behind the glass, as if in a funnel, I saw moments. Pope Francis' visit to the hospital. Silent mass in a dark cathedral. Hands clutching the cross. Screams in Latin. Not prayers, but orders. Jesus didn't explain. He let me see. And the deeper we went, the smaller I was. Then, I saw it. Shadow under the Vatican. Not a metaphor. A real business structure. Something ancient that fed on underground secrets. Pope Francis was not a free ruler. A guardian. The last one. And his death won't be natural. I wanted to turn away. I wanted to forget. But Jesus said, now you are also a guardian. You are the witness, not the chosen one. And you have to talk. Before they speak for you. I woke up in an ambulance. They were shouting my name, Edward, Edward. But I only heard an echo from another space. Not the voices of these doctors, but of the one who walked with me in the dark. Jesus was no longer around. But his eyes stayed on me. Not physically. Deeper. It's like he left in my soul. Key. I didn't know why yet. But he felt that the castle was already close. 3 days later, I returned to America. Boston greeted me with rain. I couldn't sleep. Every night, the same image. Dungeon. Stone arch. Beneath it is a throne. But not for a human. Something else was sitting there. It didn't move. It didn't sleep. It was waiting. I tried to pray, but it was pointless. Ordinary words meant nothing in this new world. One night I found myself at my computer. Hands typed themselves. I was looking for Vatican City schematics. Catacombs. The Pontifical Library. I found a blueprint, an old one, scanned. Where someone had handwritten it in pencil in the underground levels. Thronus Umbri. The throne of shadow. There's also a single English word. Children's handwriting. Almost a scratch. He's still alive. I didn't know who he was referring to. Dad? Or what's underneath it? That same night, I received a strange letter in the mail. Envelope, no address. Just my name. Inside is a yellowed photo. Dark chapel. 3 men in black robes. On the floor, something alive, but bound and surrounded by a circle of salt. On the back are handwritten words. He fed them faith. But it no longer saturates. Now the shepherd himself is needed. I felt everything start to move. Not externally. Inside the world. It was as if someone had shifted the plate of reality. There was a crackling sound around the edges. And my task is not to stop and see it and pass it on. And then I realized it's not just about the Vatican. It's already here. The American Church. Old theologians. Those who lived too long and smiled too often. I remembered one bishop in Louisiana who spoke about the second seal in 2001. He died in 2012. But his name came up again. In my dreams. On the altar. Burned. But readable. So there's more than one throne. So it's not just death that's being prepared. And the exchange. I started noticing them in people. Not demons. Not angels. Replaced ones. The faces are familiar. Speech is flawless. But the look. An eye that doesn't look, but scans. On the subway, an old man with a copy of the Boston Globe across from him doesn't blink for 3 whole minutes. In the church, a boy of about 8 puts down a candle and whispers not a prayer, but numbers. In the supermarket, the cashier tells me, "Just a little more, Mr. Brooks. There's only one more time to die." I thought I was going crazy. Until I had a dream that wasn't a dream. I was standing in a corridor of stone, damp as the dungeons of Europe. There are icons on the walls, but all with their eyes closed. Even Christ on the cross, the eyes are sewn together with thick black thread. At the end of the corridor is a door. There's a sign on it that I didn't know before, but I recognized it instantly. Solomon's Key, upside down. I went in. And I saw him. He was kneeling in front of the blueprint. Not paper. Not the plan. It was a live map. The blood vessel, as thin as a spider's web, intertwined with the lines. That led to all the churches of the world. Like veins. In the center is the Vatican. But the pulse wasn't coming from there. And from the depths of America. Somewhere between Virginia and Tennessee. I looked closer. And the map looked up at me. It was human. But it has an endless corridor. And at the end, there's Pope Francis, standing with his back turned. Talking to someone who can't be seen. I tried to leave. But he reappeared. Jesus Christ. There were no words. Only images. Coffins standing upright. Children singing in an incomprehensible language. A mitre on the head that whispers. A cross thrown into the fire, from which grapes grow. I screamed. And I woke up. Next to it is a paper bag with mail. One postcard. Without a return address. It shows a photo of the cathedral in Nashville, heavily darkened. There is an inscription on the back. There's blood talking. Di wants to understand the second. I went to Nashville. I didn't tell anyone. I just got in the car. On the way, I listened to Christian radio. Suddenly the broadcast was interrupted, and the voice said, "He's already sick. But death is just a handshake." Behind her is the new pontiff. Not a human. Then the radio switched back to the song. No one else heard it. I stayed at a motel in Nashville. The church depicted on the postcard turned out to be real. St. Barnabas Church. Abandoned. Closed since 1998. I entered through a side door. It smelled of wet wood and incense that had nowhere to go. There's a circle of ashes on the floor. In the center is an eye scratched into the tile. And the symbol. Not a Catholic cross. Unknown. But ancient. I felt movement behind me. Turned around. And there stood a man in a black cloak. The face is hidden. But the voice was clear. "You entered the bloodstream. Now you must choose. Know or see." I asked, "Isn't it the same thing?" He took off his hood. And I saw my face. Only his eyes were as black as oil. I woke up in a cold sweat. But there's a scar on my arm that wasn't there. Small, smooth, and eye-shaped. So I've already been tagged. I'm not just a witness. I became a carrier. And now it's just getting started. I didn't go back to Boston. It's like everything that was there before the heart attack is gone. Work, friends, phone, even an apartment. Everything felt like a part of another life that I couldn't carry around anymore. I drove to where the symbol on the floor of the church pointed out. In Lynchburg, Virginia. Why go there? Because last night I had a dream about a woman in white. The old woman. But the eyes are glass. She said, "He sleeps under the crossroads of 3 rivers. But he won't be sleeping soon. Then everything will start to rot from the inside out." Lynchburg is a city forgotten by time itself. It was small and dank. As if everything had been built for someone who never had to go out. I rented a room in an old house, where I was immediately told, "If you hear a knock at midnight, don't answer it. It's not for you." On the second day, I went to the local library. I didn't know what I was looking for. But the books themselves began to fall from the shelves. The first is Symbols of the Apocrypha. The second is the Letters of St. Malka. I've never heard of it. And the third, Between the Pages. A piece of paper, obviously enclosed by someone recently. On it, a cross is drawn, pierced by an eye. And signature. My father is ill. But his illness is not physical. His dreams are no longer his own. He no longer sees Christ. He sees the other. That same night, a dream. Dungeon again. But now I can see more. A long corridor with 6 doors. Each one has a name. 1. Liberatus. 2. Sylvanus. 3. Aquila. 4. Franciscus. 5. Without a name. 6. Closed with chains. I reach for the 4th door, Franciscus. She starts to shake. Smoke seeps out of the castle, smelling of wine and blood. Inside, a voice. I didn't ask to become a bridge. But I'm not human anymore. They eat my dreams and call it communion. Tell them, Daddy's not Daddy anymore. I woke up on the floor. Next to it is a clock. 3:03. Again. There's a new scar on my arm. In the form of a triple ring. Each ring is slightly deeper than the previous one. Like a spiral. Leading down. In the library, I found a woman. Who knew more than she should have. Marilyn. The caretaker. Dry, gray-haired, with eyes that held too much memory. She came to me on her own. You came at a sign. You saw him too, didn't you? I nodded. She wasn't surprised. We had 3 of them. You're the only one left. The others were trying to enter the 6th door. I asked, "What's behind it?" Mary Lynn didn't answer immediately. After her. What it always was. Not evil. And not God. An absolute observer. The one who does not create. Just waiting for everything to come back to him. He sees the pontiff's death as a repayment. And you are part of that calculation. I asked, "Who started all this?" She looked out the window and whispered, "Him. The one who doesn't sleep. Jesus can be the door. But there is one who is a loop." I went out into the night. Mary Lynn died the next day. They said it was a stroke. But I know she's just not here anymore. Soon I felt like I was beginning to hear other people's thoughts. Especially when a priest passed by. In my head, a whisper in Latin. Corpus sanctum, trahiter, per ignum. The holy body stretches through the fire. They already know what I see. They don't kill me. Because I am the key. And the key can't be destroyed. But one day they will come. And then I should be ready. Silence. First. Before the sound. She came on a Saturday. I was in the old chapel in Lynchburg, where Lutherans used to serve, but now everything is abandoned. The doors creak, the dust falls like a shroud. I was sitting at the altar, not praying, just being there. Then I realized I couldn't hear myself. My thoughts. My breath. Nothing. It's like everything is behind glass. The silence wasn't empty. She watched. The second silence came at night. I was lying in bed, and time seemed to freeze. The numbers on the clock were blinking, but not moving. Again, silence. But after the sound, like an echo of a world that just disappeared. It wasn't a voice I heard in the silence. And the intention. You are not chosen to be, but to remember. When he falls, you will tell him who took his throne. I woke up with the taste of metal in my mouth. There is a feather on the pillow. Black, hard. Streaked like human skin. I didn't ask any questions. Because the answer was already there. I found a house. It's old, wooden, with windows boarded up from the inside. The one that my dream showed me, at the crossroads of 3 rivers. In the backyard is a stone covered with vines. It's stamped with Tria Silentia, Una Veritas. 3 silences, 1 truth. I went inside. I knew right away that he was here. The lights went out. But there were candles burning in the darkness. And someone was already sitting at the table. Jesus Christ. But not like in the pictures. Not like in the temples. Without radiance. Without a crown. Just a person. Tired. With eyes that could see everything. I couldn't speak. So did he. But I didn't need to think. He handed me the cup. I had a drink. It wasn't water. And not wine. It was a memory. Not mine. His. I saw how he walked through the desert, and there was no shadow behind him. How he entered the temple, and there was no one behind the altar. How he stood over the body of the man in white who had just died. How his own hands laid the mitre on top of another. But the other one wasn't human. I asked, "Who took the throne?" He looked at me. You saw it. But I didn't understand. He was the first pope. Now it's the last one. The loop is complete. But now they want to continue. And that requires a false Christ. I realized that this wasn't about Francis. It's about him. About who was before. About Peter. And about who is now ready to enter his trail. The third silence came. As Jesus disappeared. He didn't leave. It just stopped being there. And all that's left is a chair placed in the center of the room. Empty. I knew it wasn't just a chair. This is the throne. The one they'll put the non-human on. I left the house in the early morning. The light was ash gray. There are 2 moons in the sky. No one but me has ever seen one of them. Soon the day of death. But it's not over yet. Because after death there will be an ascension. And it will not be from God. Lynchburg was different. The houses were still there, but something in the air had changed. It was as if the city itself was preparing to die. Not my own. Alien. But so important that it cast a shadow thousands of miles away. First the bells stopped ringing. Then the dogs disappeared. And at night there were no crickets. The silence didn't ring. She was pushing. I found the note in my room. In someone else's Latin, but with my name on it. Edward. Orator ora. Nam recitus. Liturgia erit. Porta se aperiet. Edward. The hour is near. Don't back down. There will be a liturgy. The gate will open. I put on a dark shirt, black trousers. And left the house. They were waiting for me. 6 men in black cloaks. Without faces. Each held a candle. But the candle wasn't burning. It smoked blue. One of them handed me a mask. A wooden one. With a thread in the form of crossed rings. I was supposed to be one of them. To see what is hidden. We were led to an old factory that had been closed for a long time. The metal was rusty and the walls were damp. But everything was inside. Clear. Hundreds of people were standing in a circle. The silent ones. Everyone is wearing a mask. In the center is an altar. It's not a crucifix. Not an icon. Something. A book sealed by the human eye. The ritual began. There were no words. Just steps. Slow ones at first. Then synchronous ones. Then the whole building seemed to throb. One of them, the one closest to the altar, began to read. Not by voice. His thoughts echoed in my head. Today is a night of absence. Today is the day before we return. We don't pray today. We forget. The old body died. Dad's dead. But we don't bury him. We dissolve it in the past. So that there is no memory left. That the throne may be made free for one who will not doubt. I started to lose my balance. The floor gave out from under my feet. All the faces around him began to contort. The masks dripped like wax. From the eyes oozed blood. Sand comes out of their mouths. I shouted. What's all this for? Who is he, the new one? A voice inside my mind answered. The one who is not resurrected. The one who didn't die. The one who was at the beginning and waited for the last one. Don't write his name. His name is void. The altar began to rise. Below it is a staircase leading to a black abyss. Everyone stepped in. One by one. One of them stopped. Took off his mask. And looked at me. It was me. But not me. If you want to know who he is, you have to be what you were before. Who? Peter. The first. The first one who said you are the Christ. The first one who later refused. He pushed me down the stairs. I was falling. The wind is icy cold. The lights flickered like an old TV. And in the fall I only heard one thing. Dad is dead. But now the question is, who will say it first? I woke up in my room. Dry. 1. There's a newspaper on my desk. The date is today's. Heading. Vatican denies rumors of Pope's passing, no comment. But I already knew. It died. And someone else was already up. Sunday morning. I heard singing. Not ecclesiastical. Singing without words. It's as if the building itself is crying out to the sky, but without faith, without hope, just out of habit. I was in the Vatican. But not in the real world, not in what tourists photograph. This was a different place. Under it. Where the marble meets the ground. Where the walls are made of bones. And the air does not flow, it vibrates. They didn't take me there. I walked by myself. As if he knew the way ahead. The stairs were endless. But there's a door at the end of it. Golden. 7 seals, each with a name. Ignis, Tenebri, Solitudo, Falsitas, Exidium, Pax. Veritas. Only the last one was still closed. The rest have already been plucked. I was standing in front of her, and then he appeared. Jesus Christ. But not like last time. Not tired. Not a person. Now the judge. His eyes are like an abyss. A voice is not a sound, but an order. You want to know. But if you find out, you won't be able to live the same life as before. I was trembling. Tell me the truth. He raised his hand. He didn't open the door. He opened me up. I felt empty. Not fear. Not pain. A place where there has always been something: faith, reason, personality. Now it's just a black funnel. And there he put knowledge. I saw it. Just like on the day of Pope Francis' death. His body was still warm. How the anti-mass liturgy was performed over him in the opposite direction. How 3 cardinals, one without eyes, gave the breath of false life. Someone who shouldn't have lived. I saw Peter's throne. And on it, not a person. Something that used to be called a man of resistance. The face changed every second. Name, every epoch. He was Cain. Herod. Julian. Savonarola. John XXII. He was all and none. He was talking. But no one heard the words. Everyone heard what they wanted to hear. Peace. One God for all. Kingdom of the earth. Salvation without repentance. Truth without the cross. Love without truth. And people worshipped him. Millions. Billions. Jesus was looking at me. He wasn't angry. He was mournful. What you've seen isn't the end. This is just the last seal. When it is broken, the choice remains. But not everyone can do it. I shouted. What should I do? He didn't respond with words, but with a gesture. He handed me the key. It's old and rusty. It's engraved with non serviam. I knew where it led. To those who will not bow down. To those who won't forget. To those who will be killed for his name's sake. I woke up in America. In the hospital. There's a TV in the room. On the screen, a new program from the Vatican. A smiling man in white. Dear brothers and sisters, we are pleased to announce that all religions are now recognized as paths to the same light. A new era is beginning. The age of reason and unity. The crowd applauded. Standing up. I looked and knew. It's not him. This is him. And his name. Don't spell it. The hospital was empty. I left the room and there was no doctor. Not a sound. Just IVs slowly dripping into empty bags. The wards were open. Some have their beds frozen at the moment of death. Others seemed suddenly abandoned, halfway between life and something else. I went to the window. The streets were quieter than the dead. But there are signs on the buildings. Not graffiti. Something ancient. Woven letters. A name that no one can read. But I knew what that meant. He's already here. I went back to my room. On the pillow is a sheet of paper. The same handwriting as in the Vatican. Those who don't accept will be erased. Those who accept will be forgotten. You're a witness. And witnesses don't live long. The TV turned on itself. The new pope is no longer a human being. The smile is like that of a dead man who has learned to mimic. He said, at dawn, we will sign the final pact. The cross is no longer needed. Sin, outdated. All will become one. The sky is here now. The crowd chanted his name. But the name wasn't spoken. They just moved their lips, no sound. I remembered what Jesus had said. About the key. About the choice. I went outside. I didn't know where to go. But my feet carried me to an old chapel on the outskirts of town. It was abandoned. But not dead. Inside is an altar. Cracked. It has a Bible on it. Open in words. And the name of the beast was written on their foreheads. I took out the key. I put it next to me. Non serviam. I won't serve. And I realized. This is not a rejection of God. This is a refusal to lie. Footsteps shuffled behind me. I turned around. 6 men in white. The masks are smooth. My hands are empty. In the name of unity, they said, give me the certificate. Or disappear. I didn't answer. I just stood behind the altar. He took the Bible. At that moment, everything started to fall apart. The stone cracked. The windows darkened. The world began to curl up like a leaf burned by fire. But I knew it wasn't over. This is separation. Those who will accept the name. And those who will keep the truth. Even if it means dying. I said it out loud. His name is written in blood. But mine is in the book of life. The darkness swallowed me up. But not fear. Not despair. Expectation. For he is coming. If you were shocked by this story, subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the next revelation. Each story is a window, but there may be no light outside the window. Maybe you.